Back in 1989, when Gorbachev and Bush met here in the Mediterranean Sea to end the Cold War, people around the world shared hope that the world would become a more friendly place. But sadly, former KGB agents have transformed the government of the Russian Federation into an aggressive meddler. My name is John Christmas, and I'm whistleblower in the largest fraud that you have never heard of. Here's a story of a reason why the Soviet Union broke down into KGB mafia states. Byline, the Byline Times, and EU Today have published articles about this. However, the issue is still being ignored by the mainstream media. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development was founded with a mission to foster democracy in the former communist states of Eastern Europe and Central Asia. Despite failing at its mission, the EBRD has been expanding. Now it includes 69 investor countries, and it's supposed to develop 38 countries. The EBRD's popularity stems from its claim that it's making profit at the same time that it's doing good. And it also doesn't hurt that they pay consulting fees to a lot of influential people. This 2018 report by the European Commission's Eurostat is about a visit to Latvia by Eurostat and representatives of auditor EY and the European Central Bank. According to the report, but not mentioned by the Latvian government, the Latvian media, or in the Citadele Bank annual report, the EBRD privatization of Citadele is subject to a secret reversion. This is the fourth time evidence have emerged of a decade-long cover-up campaign by the EBRD, which involves Parex Bank of Latvia, Ukio Bank of Lithuania, ABLV Bank of Latvia, and Citadele Bank of Latvia. Most likely, this secret reversion is designated as a state secret in Latvia, because that's what they did with the earlier similar transaction involving Parex Bank. The Citadele reversion is mentioned in the report as if it's a normal deal, but in Latvia, these deals are not normal at all. In fact, Latvia used the state secret law to designate these transactions as a matter of national security. The subject banks were at the center of the Latvian proxy network, rumored to be founded by former KGB agents. As an indicator of how much black money could be going through this network, there was a whistleblowing against the Danske Bank branch in Estonia in 2018 about $230 billion run through shell company accounts. We are gradually getting more information about that one because it's getting investigated by Estonia and Denmark. However, with Parex, Ukio, and ABLV, the situation is different because Latvia, Lithuania, and the EBRD are running a cover-up. I've explained this racket to over 100 journalists since I was exiled from Latvia. From those journalists, maybe 5% understood the fraud, and only about 2% were brave enough to publish articles about it. Accounting-wise, it's similar to Enron, which was blocked immediately from issuing bonds when it was discovered to be fraudulent. However, in the case of Latvia, Lithuania, and the EBRD, they're still issuing bonds for 10 years after the first leaked evidence, which was a Nomura report. To summarize in a sentence, the EBRD is getting paid to make investments in offshore Russian banks. Latvia covered up the disappearance of assets from Parex Bank, where I was the whistleblower, by making a secretly reversible privatization to the EBRD. The Spanish government identified two individuals as being the main money launderers for Vladimir Putin's Tambovskaya Mafia, and both of them were using platform accounts at Parex Bank. Also, in at least two cases, Parex made huge unrecoverable loans to members of Tambovskaya. Tambovskaya has been accused by several governments and the media of large-scale heroin pushing, sex slave pimping, and weapons dealing in many countries. This is exactly the opposite of what the EBRD should be funding. As Parex was being bailed out, clients and staff moved over to ABLV Bank, Ukio Bank, and Citadele Bank. Ukio Bank processed huge payments from oligarchs to Vladimir Putin's cellist, then was looted in 2013, and again the EBRD was involved with intransparent transactions. ABLV was blacklisted by the US Treasury in 2018 for looting Ukraine, looting Moldova, funding the North Korean nuclear weapons program, among other things. We may never know fully what went on at ABLV because it's being allowed to self-liquidate after the proposed administrator was assassinated. Citadele Bank has operated openly illegally, at times advertising a service to help clients deposit money in other banks under a nominee to hide their identity. Supposedly, Citadele is clean because the EBRD is a shareholder. However, it's interesting to learn that the EBRD didn't really invest its own money, but rather is getting paid to buy those shares. Sadly, the big media, including the New York Times, the Washington Post, Bloomberg, Reuters, and the Financial Times are blocking the story. Instead of showing evidence that Latvia and the EBRD used fraud to give money to the Russian Mafia money launderers, they promote a narrative that Latvia and the EBRD are fighting very hard against the money launderers. The New York Times and the Washington Post both published allegations in 2018 that the governor of the Bank of Latvia is corrupt. They named me as whistleblower. However, they refused to include the actionable evidence that the EBRD organized a cover-up. Bloomberg refuses to publicize the EBRD cover-ups. However, they are publicizing a different, similar cover-up. Banca Monte dei Paschi di Siena lost $450 million in 2008, and instead of admitting to the loss, they covered it up with a transaction with Deutsche Bank. Nomura was involved in the Monte Paschi deal and also in the EBRD deals. However, for some reason, the Monte Paschi deals got prosecuted and the EBRD deals did not get prosecuted and are being spun like a rescue. Losses covered up by the EBRD at Parex, Ukio, and Citadele were at least twice larger, and some of the losses were caused by purposeful transfers to people linked with organized crime. Reuters also refuses to present the evidence of the EBRD racket. What Reuters did is they contacted Eurostat and then they got back to me that Eurostat told them that they retroactively legalized the EBRD Parex deal by making a rule that put options do not have to be disclosed as debt. The theory is that the put option might not be exercised. In the Parex EBRD case, the EBRD spent 84 million euros buying a stake in Parex from the Latvian government, which was known to all parties to be worth zero. Then it exercised the put option to reverse back that transaction for 110 million euros, and also for a stake in newly created Citadele, and now the Citadele privatization is also due to be reversed for another 88 million. In other words, the EBRD paid 84 million euros to buy something that had a value of zero and got refunded back 198 million euros paid by taxpayers who had no idea what was going on. This loss is in addition to the much larger loss, which was that the government used this cover-up as an excuse not to go after the other missing Parex assets. The Financial Times also refuses to publish evidence of the EBRD racket, despite my numerous requests. However, they did publish an opinion piece telling the opposite story. The piece, written by the chief economist of the EBRD, is talking about the problem of corruption and about people moving out from their homes in Eastern Europe and moving elsewhere. However, it doesn't mention that the EBRD itself is in the center of this. The two countries which we're focusing on, Latvia and Lithuania, have seen huge emigration because of corruption problems. If Latvia had a new government today, the new government could go after the EBRD to get this money back, and also to refuse to pay anything further to the EBRD. Latvia also has clear grounds to repudiate its debt which is owed to the European Central Bank. The European Central Bank is both a conspirator and a victim in this situation. It's truly bizarre. But anyway, since the European Central Bank knows about the cover-up racket, and since the European Central Bank is also buying Latvian bonds, Latvia, under a new government, shouldn't repay these bonds. Now, in 2020, the European Commission vows to get serious fighting Russian Mafia money laundering. But oddly, the person they chose to make the announcement was the former Prime Minister of Latvia, Valdis Dombrovskis, who is the same person who signed these EBRD deals. Let's expose and smash the network of the KGB bankers who have ruined democracy in Russia, Ukraine, Moldova, Latvia, Lithuania, and maybe now even in Brussels. Thank you.